Hey guys, I'm doing rear brakes with the electronic parking brake on a 2018 Honda Clarity. Right here I'm taking the wheels off. I've jacked the car up, and if you need any help with taking the wheels off or jacking the car up, you should just pay someone to do this job. Tuck the wheel away. So I'm using a T30 Torx bit, and that is going to be used to take off the motor for the electronic parking brake. There are two bolts. They're in the 3 and 6 o'clock position behind the caliper assembly. It's easier to use a flex head ratchet just for clearance. The brake hose gets in the way. Some of the suspension parts can be in the way. The connector harness for the motor can be in the way, so a flex head ratchet made things a little bit easier for me. And I'm using one hand, that's why I'm slipping. You're going to see that in the video. One hand recording and the other hand wrenching. I did loosen all these bolts before this video to make it a little easier on myself, but this process is the same. And I'm in a rust-prone area, so I'm going to, in the end, put, as you'll see, anti-seize on all those bolts. Look how rusty that is. You don't want that to snap on you. Alright, I did skip one step, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. Let's see, I'm struggling to get that bolt out with one hand. Okay, there we go. So you want to be careful when you get the motor out. I've read that the connector can slide out somehow. I don't know. I guess you guys are just monkeys destroying things, but make sure that you put it somewhere where nothing's going to get tugged on. That's the motor right there. Tuck that away. Okay, so now I'm taking, wrong size. I'm taking a 14 millimeter wrench socket, and we are going to use that to loosen the caliper. See, 14, and what I'm going to use is a 17. Oh, there I go, dropping things again. But a 17 millimeter open-ended wrench to stick where the slide pin is to help us get that bolt out. What I forgot to record, because remember I took everything apart first, is you're going to take your T45 Torx and turn it clockwise to put that caliper back in, the piston back in. You can do this on the car, and then from there, what I didn't show you is I stuck a flathead in between the caliper bracket and the pad to retract the caliper. So now I'm just taking the pads out, and we are going to take the bracket off. The caliper bracket is a 17 millimeter. And that's easier with an impact, probably. Faster. Here we go. Okay, after you got those two bolts out, your bracket is ready to come off. All right. And then we are going to take that screw that holds the rotor onto the hub. What I did was I used an impact driver and a number 3 PH3 Phillips. I go tighten a little bit and then loosen. I put as much pressure as I can going into the bolt as I'm doing both tightening and loosening, and usually it comes out. So now I'm going to take my wire wheel and clean the hub. knock off all the rust, clean it up so the rotor will come off easy in the future. And I'm going to use anti-seize, and I'm going to apply it all around the wheel hub, again to prevent the rotor from sticking. And I'm going to give it a good paint job like Bob Ross did. And we're done. Time to put the rotor on. My rotor has a bunch of holes, so if you're like me, I used the large holes to put in the lug studs and they did not fit. So I rotated the rotor and they slid right on. Now it's time to remove the brake hardware from the caliper bracket. And to do this, you're going to use a flathead screwdriver. These are 4 small pieces instead of 2 larger pieces. I'm not sure why they redesigned that. I don't see Honda saving any money in using 4 small pieces for some brake hardware. But we're going to pop those out, all 4 of them. I'm going to use my wire wheel again, knock out the rust. After I record, I do the job again with 2 hands to make sure it's clean. Now I'm taking brake lubricant and I'm just going to rub a little in the area where the brake hardware goes. We have all 4 pieces back in. Those pins stick on the outside. Next step is to clean and re-grease our slide pins. So, taking that out, wiping it down, adding fresh brake lubricant. Just go around the sides. You don't want to do the tip. You just want to get the sides, because that can cause the pin to not go in all the way. The bit of grease can cause the pin to get pushed out, and that can cause premature pad wear. So right now what I'm doing is the pin is in, and I'm just moving that rubber down to get the air out. Again, that air can push the pin out, and then you can have premature brake wear. So as you can see here, the pin got pushed out. So I'm going to, here you go, here's a good description. Push that rubber boot down and push the pin in, and that gets rid of all the air. So we're good to go. Next thing is going to put the bracket back on. So what I'm going to do, again, I'm in a rust prone area. I am going to put a little bit of anti-seize on the caliper bracket bolts. And just thread those back in. The hard part coming up is going to be putting the pads into that brake hardware. You just have to push that dimple. You'll know what I'm talking about when you see it, but push that dimple and slide the pad underneath it. So now just tightening these up snug. Nothing goes over 60 foot-pounds. I just do hand tighten a little more. So here's the part that sucks, putting these pads in. The part with that tab, that is the inner pad. That is what squeals when it wears down and lets you know that it's time to replace the brake pads and probably the rotor. But yes, there's a little dimple that sucks to put the pads in with, but finagle those in. Maybe pause the video and take a look how it looks right there. I do not grease the hardware side where the pad meets the hardware. Just for dust and dirt grime gets stuck on it, and they don't do that from the factory. So now I'm putting the caliper bolts back in, again with anti-seize. Oh, see it's spinning on the bottom of the slide pin. That's the reason for the 17mm open-ended wrench, which you see here. And one-handed recording. Okay, hand tight. That's only, I believe, around 26 foot-pounds. Now we're getting ready to put the motor back on. Anti-seize up the bolts that held in the motor. And for this, we are just going to gently tighten them until they're snug. Because it's plastic and it's cheap. And if you over tighten it, you're gonna break it. After you got both of those back on and tightened, you're going to be done. And you're gonna wanna recalibrate the parking brake. So what you do, turn the ignition on. Don't start the car, just push the button twice, pump the brake a few times, and then you're gonna engage the parking brake. You might hear the motor go for a few seconds over, but that's okay. Release the parking brake, engage the parking brake again, take a look at your dash. The brake system and the brake light should shut off, or at least the brake system light, and then you're done. If something doesn't work, like the warning light still comes on, check your connections and do it again.